And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Talk and In Conversation, our new series. And welcome to another great guest. We have the amazing Kelvin Chin with us, author and life after life expert. Good afternoon, Kelvin, and welcome.
Hey, great to be here with you, Paul.
And thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, I've written two of my books are published, and I got another couple in the works. Available on all the online booksellers, Amazon, everybody, and so forth around the world. Life after life expert means that I help people both on this side and the other side, or deal with this side and the other side, help people live life more freely, fully, freer from fear, anxiety, whether it's about death or dying or anything else, quite frankly. So we can live life in a more contented, happy way, more happily, less suffering, that kind of thing. So I also teach meditation. I've been teaching meditation for almost 50 years now. Thousands of people worldwide, 60 countries and counting. So that's my overall, who I am, what I do. I've been involved in this, as I said, for, going on 50 years now. Helping people everywhere, regardless of religion, belief system, no religion. It doesn't matter what people's belief systems are, culturally or otherwise. I help people.
Yeah. And this is the book, guys. Kelvin kindly sent me this particular one, that how to get over the fear of death and dying. And someone told me recently that the basis of all fears actually comes from the fear of dying.
Yeah. Fear of
Concept.
death, and I also distill even the fear of death down when I talk to my clients, my students. By the way, people can contact me for a free phone session or a WhatsApp or a Zoom session from anywhere around the world, as part of the nonprofit work that I do. But I distill even the fear of death down to really the fear of uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, really. And so I tell people right off the bat, look, I can't create a universe of certainty, but because we live in an uncertain universe, everything's uncertain. I don't know if they're going to have the whole raw cashews down at the supermarket store that I go to, if they're going to be all out of them because everybody else likes them too. Uncertainty exists in the world, in the universe we live in, but I help people get rid of the fears around it. Can reduce our fears, eliminate our fears around whatever, then we can live life more freely.
Yeah. Because you talked about I've been reading your books that you kindly sent through to me, and the four-tiered approach. Can you talk a little bit about the four-tiered approach that you use?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this. So what got me into this whole thing is when my mom died. My mom died when she was young. When I was young, I was in school at the time. She was in her 50s and early mid 50s, and she was the picture of health externally, and then all of a sudden she died of a very acute illness that had been obviously festering for a long time but never manifested symptomatically, and it really shook me up. And that's how I got into death and dying work, if you want to call it that. I back-ended into it because I needed help. I was in a really deep state of grieving myself, which I didn't even realize at the time. I was just really confused and upset and so forth, but that's now I know what it was. And I started helping other people, which helped me and so forth. That was almost 40 years ago now. And when I was talking to people, we would have conversations, and every once in a while, people would, if there were more than two people in the conversation, me and somebody else, then people would start inserting their own beliefs in there. And sometimes it would almost turn into a little bit of an argument about whose beliefs about death and dying were the right ones and who were the wrong ones.
Yeah.
They really went down this institutional belief system, So that's when I came up with the four beliefs. Yeah. So, you want me to tell you the four beliefs?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So basically the four beliefs are, and these are not religious beliefs. These are underlying beliefs below the religious and cultural beliefs that exist in the world. So everybody has one of these. Either the science belief, which is, I call that belief system number one, the science belief. There is no afterlife. The body and the mind are connected. That's it. You die, you shut off. Okay, that's belief system number one.
Yeah.
Second belief system I call the fear of continued existence. So what's that? That's where people believe in an afterlife, but there's some fear associated with it, and there could be, any number of sources of that fear, of those fears. Third belief system is no fear, and yet belief in an afterlife, maybe even looking forward to it. Fourth belief system is reincarnation, past lives, that kind of thing. You can come back.
Yeah.
Everybody falls somewhere in there. Now, some people will be maybe hybrids. They may be fence sitters, I call them. They're like, I'm not sure of this. Maybe I'm a little bit of this one and that one. And then that's okay too. And so I always, when I'm talking to people about their fears and concerns about death and dying, I always ask them first, what's your belief system? Because from my standpoint, I'm here to help people. I'm not here to persuade people to believe this way or that way. And it really is irrelevant what my belief system is when I'm working with them. It's what their lens is. And I help them look through their lens.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's very, personal to your own experience, isn't it? So helping that, because a lot of people, there's so many fears that come off the back of that fear of death and dying, that it kind of creates other fears. I know for people that are natural mediums that have had the fear put into them, and it kind of tends to shut them down. And when they break it down, they realize they've had this fear of their own existence, their own mortality, if you like, that creates another fear. So it kind of blocks people, doesn't it? Fear it kind of keeps us small, doesn't it? It stops us from being who we truly are.
Yeah, I think it's very limiting. Yeah, I think fear. So what's fear? The way I define fear is the emotion caused by the anticipation of unhappiness.
Yeah.
So it's limiting. It definitely limits our happiness, but it also limits us energetically and can cause us to make mistakes that we might not otherwise make if our energy was more freed up and our mind was more clear thinking. And so, very limiting, I think, fear. So if we could free up people from fear, imagine all the creativity and the relational improvement in a lot of different areas,
Yeah. So also, I don't know if we mentioned this, you are a meditation teacher, and you do transcendental meditation.
Yeah, I used to teach transcendental meditation in the 1970s. I learned TM, or transcendental meditation, in 1970. I studied personally with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in 1971 and 1973. And I taught with his organization. I was an international leader in his organization for about 10 years. And then they went off in a different direction. So I moved on.
But he was the guy that taught the Beatles?
Yes, he's the guy who taught the Beatles. Yes, 1967. And a number of my friends were with the Beatles and Maharishi in India at that time.
From kind of a Western ideal, that was the kind of, the Beatles were there. Oh, what is this meditation stuff? It kind of opened it up to the Western ideas of meditation.
Yeah, really.
So it was a benchmark for that, actually. So for being a teacher, would you consider yourself to connect with spirit as well? I don't like to use the word medium as well, because it's very limiting.
Right.
But do you find through your meditation experiences that opportunity to connect with the spirit?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, absolutely. Not everybody who comes to me to learn meditation may have that desire or intent or even know anything about, what you just said.
Yeah.
But does it open ourselves up more? Absolutely. And, choose myself as an example. When I was 19 years old, I didn't know what spirituality was. I mean, I went to church when I was a little kid only because my parents said I had to. And so I went to Protestant church and, on Sundays, and I think they just wanted to get rid of the kids once a week at least. And so I really didn't, to me, that's what spirituality, I didn't know what that was. I went to church, but when I first learned meditation at 19 years old, my whole goal was to reduce my anxiety, because I was highly anxious at that point. I was my second year of university, and I was, one word, I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what therapy was. For example, if you'd asked me, if you said, Kelvin, maybe you should go to counseling, I said, counseling, high school, we have a guidance counselor. That's the only counselor, the person who tells you, which helps you figure out which university to go to or whatever. I didn't know what counseling was. So I stumbled into an auditorium, and the guy was talking about meditation, and he happened to be talking about research on meditation. And that's what pulled me in, because the scientific research about it. And then, because I was pre-med at the time and so forth, and I actually was in some of the early experiments. Several years later, however, I started spontaneously opening up to initially past life memories, which I didn't even believe in reincarnation at the time. And yet I started having some experiences that were unusual and that had some external corroboration from people outside of me. And I'm like, what? And then about 15 years into meditating, 15, 16 years in, I opened up to the other side, and I started getting information from the other side and so forth. So my past life memories now go back about 6,000 years, about 24 lifetimes. As I said, I've been, communicating or having open. It's like the veil. They talk about piercing the veil. The veil is just fairly transparent to me, just like it is for you, since 1986.
So that's a whole nother conversation, Kelvin, that we could get into. You know that, but I know a lot of the guys that watch, the viewers that watch Spiritual Talk, will be really interested in that aspect. And you've also got a YouTube channel,
Yes.
And I've been watching some of your videos on there, guys. And can you give it a plug for us? Is it just Kelvin Chin on the YouTube?
Yeah, they could search Kelvin Chin. If they typed in Kelvin Chin Turning Within in the search window, that would get you to the right Kelvin Chin. I used to be the only Kelvin Chin, I think, in the world. Back in the 1950s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And then there's a whole bunch of them now, and they're all 20 to 30 years old, and they live in Malaysia and Singapore. So whatever.
Yeah, I have noticed that. So, but yeah, no, it's been inspiring, because some of the videos you talk about, because you're a speaker as well. You do a lot of speaking, public speaking, and some of your conversations, and you don't say that this is what this is. You suggest.
Yeah.
Which I love.
My thing is, look, if you really think about any experience that anybody has, whether it's with the other side or whether it's going to your supermarket on this side, it doesn't matter what your experience in life is. We have an experience that's a genuine experience. Then we have an interpretation of that experience that's filtered through our consciousness. And our consciousness filter has all kinds of filters built into it, some of which are belief filters that may be religious or cultural or educational or who knows what. And so their interpretation. So to me, people are always looking for proof, or they want the absolute right, this or that. And I was like, we all have interpretations, and you take it and you see what's useful for you, and does it resonate? And if it doesn't, I tell my students, you set aside what doesn't resonate with what I say, keep what does.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more. What resonates with you is the best piece of information you could give somebody. Absolutely. So going back into your past life experiences, or even crossing the veil.
Yeah.
Can you share some experiences with us?
Sure.
And how does that equate now? How does that affect your life today? And was there a reason you have that experience? Because I believe everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Is it your higher self, if you like, trying to do some healing, or?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any intent at all at the time.
Okay.
I mean, it was completely spontaneous. Now, hindsight, looking back, do I look at it as an opportunity to learn about myself? Yeah.